Okay, so in this video we're going to transform crosstab data to a list data. This is a crosstab table. We have some columns on top and some rows on the left, and we're going to transform this to a regular table before pivoting. Sometimes you can refer to this as unpivot data because you get this type of data by pivoting a regular data set. Alright, so we're going to use app scripts to do this. So I'm going to go under Tools, Script Editor. And this is my function. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So the first thing I want to do, I want to just grab this range of data. So our data goes from A1 cell through E51. All right, A1, E51. I'm just gonna type here before I forget. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna get that range. So I'm gonna go spreadsheet app dot get active sheet. Actually, let's be nice about it. Let's get active spreadsheet and get active sheet in that spreadsheet, and we're gonna store this in a variable. Then we're gonna get the range, so ss.get range, and I'm gonna refer to that as a string regular range, which will be that. So A1 through E51 right there. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to do get values. And what that's going to do, it's basically going to convert this to a JavaScript array, that range. So if I do var data array equals to this, and then I just log this out to see what I get, logger.log, and that data array, semicolon to end this line. Let's just save this. I'm gonna call this crosstab to list, hit OK, and I'm gonna try to run my function. So now I'm gonna have to give it permission to access the spreadsheet. So review, open the account, advanced, scroll down, this unsafe thing, allow to manage spreadsheets, and that should run. So now if I look at my log, I have this array, and basically this is the same data we have here in an array form. So if you look at the first cell, it's blank, right? So which is this before the comma, this blank, and then Midwestern, Northeastern, Southern, Western. And that's the first, so that's the first row right here. Then this is my second row, and then we go row by row, and so it goes. So now we're working with a JavaScript array. So because of that, you know what, let me just put this on a different tab so I can show you what's gonna happen. The fresh tab, I'm gonna paste it over here. So because this is a JavaScript array, our index starts with 0. So it's gonna go basically 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So when we look at rows in our array, this is the row number 0, this is 1, this is 2, and so on. And columns is gonna go the same way. So we start with 0, 1, so the index starts from 0. For this array we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what I need to do, I need to loop through this range of array. But I need to start looping from here because the first thing I need to get is this row. I don't want to do it for here. I'm gonna start from this one. So I want to loop from here, which is the first name of the first sales rep, which is the number 1 index. And then I'm gonna scroll all the way down, which is all the way until 50th. So if I go here and just do a for loop, So I'm going to do for var I equals, so the starting point, I want to start from the first one, number 1. So therefore I'm going to do 1. That's our semicolon. Then I want to do this for, well, for right now until it's 50, right? So let's do that. So it's going to be less than 51, which means 50, semicolon, and then I'll do I++ to go up by 1. And then we'll do our curly brackets here. So that's going to start from 1 and at 51. So if I look in this data array, so I'm going to just log this out so you can see what's going to happen. So I'm going to look into that data array, and in that data array, I want to start from this first index, so number 1, which is this I over here, I, and I want to, now that's just going to get us the row, which is this row. Now what I want the name of this person. Now in that row, the name of that person is number 0, the first index, which is 0. So to get to it, I'll do another bracket and do the 0 and do semicolon. So I'm going to save this. Syntax error. So let's see. Oh, of course, forgot the I here. Less than 51. Run this. So I'm going to go view logs. And basically what I got is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And the reason I'm getting this is because my active spreadsheet is this. So we're looking here. But we really should be looking here because this is the spreadsheet we're working with. This is the data. Now we could just refer to this tab and get this tab, but I'm just going to run the same script on this one now. I was just doing that tab to show you the logic. So you can see now there is all of our names. So we're getting that whole thing into a JavaScript array, and in that array we basically go through this and we're getting everybody's first name. So now that we were able to get to everybody's first names, the next thing I want to do, I want to try to create a new array, because as an end result I need my new range of numbers. So I'm going to create that in an array. So before I do my for loop, I'm going to create another variable, and that's going to be my results array. And initially that will be just an empty array. There's going to be nothing in it. Now, first of all, before I get to this array, so what happens if we do, instead of this 0, we do 1, right? So 1 would mean this column. So basically we'll loop through this starting from this 95,000 and all the way down. So just to verify that, let's just go here and run this function. Log. See? We're getting all the numbers. So this second parameter will basically just shift us through different columns. And 0 will be our first. That's 1. So the next thing we have to do, we have to change this 51 to a dynamic way to figuring out how many things we have. So instead of saying from I, we start from 1 and end at 51, which is 51 rows, I'm going to just say, well, this data array is that array we have, and I'm just going to do the length property on that array, and the length will basically count how many rows in this particular case we have. As a result, it will get the same number we need, which is our 51. And we should still be able to extract all the names, run this loop, and we'll be fine. But now it should be more dynamic. Okay, so now that we have this results array, we want to put our results in it. So the way we're going to do that, we're going to use results push method, which is .push method. And in parentheses, you basically provide the values you're trying to put into this array. And the values I'm going to put in the array, so basically you want to think of each value in this array as one row. So we want to go the first row, the second row, the third row, the fourth row, the fifth row. So the row means we have multiple things. So in each row, what is our end result going to look like? It's going to be like this guy's names, right? Then it's going to be, say, this, and then it's going to be this number, and then it's going to be that person's name, and then it's going to be this, and then it's going to be this number, and so on. So that's the way it's going to work. So we're going to have 3-column table when we're done with this transformation, which means that we have to push an array with 3 values. So the first value is going to be that person's name, which in this particular case, that person's name is this, comma. So the second thing is going to be, in this case, it's this thing, which is this thing that says Midwestern. Perfect. So how are we going to get to that? So that in this array, so to get to this Midwestern, I have to do what? I have to do the first row, which is number 0 row, and it's 0, 1. It's the second, but because it's an index, so it's 1. So 0, 1 should get us that Midwestern. So if I do 0 and 1, that should get that. And then finally, after this one, I'm going to do another one of these, comma, paste. And the third one is going to be this number over here. So the number is going to be basically the same row, but the next column. So this one was this row and the first column, which was 0. To move to the second column, we'll do 1. So I'm going to save this. Let's comment this out. Now I just want to log this result array in the end. Just like that. Save it. Run this function. And log it out. So now you can see that the array I get is the person's name, Midwestern, and the number. Then the second person's name, Midwestern, and the number for that person, which is this. And then the third person name and Midwestern. And that should keep going. So for this person, that should be 93,000. So if we look through this, so there it is, 93,000. So this works for just this much. So now we have to expand this script with it so it works with all of these other columns. And to do that, we're going to create a loop inside of our loop. So here in this for loop, I'm going to do another for loop. Open here and close right there. Maybe we'll tab this in a little bit. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to start with a variable, we'll call it a j. Now we have to figure out where we're starting that variable. So again, where are we going to loop? So we need to loop through all of these columns, and we need to start from, again, here. So the first one, then the second one, the third one, then the fourth one. So we need to start from the first one again. So we're going to start from 1, semicolon, and then we're going to say that our j is less than. Now, what is it less than? I needed to now count how many columns it's supposed to be. Basically, it needs to be 1, 2, 3, 4. And we need to get 5. So if we do less than 5, it will go until 4. So if we count this thing, how many things we have in this particular row, it will tell us that we have those 5 things. So what we need to do is count what we have in this first row. And to get to the first row, we're going to say data array, and then 0, which is the first row in it. And if we do dot length, that will count how many things we have in that particular row. So it will give us that count. Semicolon again, and then j++ to increment by 1. So that will create this loop inside of the loop. So now instead of having this hard-coded 1 and 1, which was always getting us everything from that one single column, I'm going to replace it with this J, which first is going to be 1, then it's going to become 2, then it's going to become 3, and then it's 4, and so on. So it's going to go through all those columns. So if I save this and I just run this as a result, I'm going to log this out so you can see initially, oh, you know what? I forgot to go back to my tab. There we go. I made that tab to show you what's going on, and now it's creating confusion. So here we go. So we have this person's name, Midwestern, and the number. Same person, and we go to Northeastern, and it's nothing. And then we do Southern, and it should be 76,000. So there we go. And then the same person in Western apparently doesn't have anything. And then we should move to the next person now and get this 101 number. So there it is. That's Midwestern, 101,000. Then that same person in Northeastern, about 78,000. And that's basically creating that array we need. So that's our results array. That's the final list. So all we have to do now is put this back to our sheets someplace. So wherever that's going to be, I'm going to put that right here next to it. Usually you probably would want to put it on a different tab. You know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to put it on a different tab. So let's create another tab. Let's call it results. This is where we're going to put our results. So first of all, let's get that tab to a variable. So I'm going to say var rs for results tab equals to this thing. And we're going to go get sheet by name. And the name for that sheet is results, I believe. Yeah, results. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to create two variables. I'm going to create variable start row, and that's where I want my results. So I'm going to start from the first row, and variable probably start column, and that's going to be 1 as well. So this will be where I want to start. So in this particular tab, I want to start from A1 cell. So that's the first row and the first column. So I'm just putting those in variables, so later on we'll be able to change them if we have to. After this array is set, I'm going to do rs dot, which is our result spreadsheet. So I'm going to do get range in that. And in this range, the start row is going to be the start row. Start column is going to be the start column. And then we're going to change two more arguments here. The next one is the number of rows we need to do from start row. So the number of rows depends on how many things we end up having here, which means it's the same thing as if we do the count length on that particular array. So that will give us the number of rows we need. And after the comma, we need to know how many columns we have to do, which will basically, if we go inside of this results array, take the first row and see how many columns we have. That will give us that, which means we're going to do this, the first row dot length, which will give us how many columns. So that will set the size of the results. And then we're going to do dot set values. I may need to zoom out a little bit. And then take this results array and put it right there as a result. So I'm going to save this. Awesome. So I'm going to go to this cross tab. This is where we're getting our script initially. And I'm going to go ahead and run this function. Let's go back and check. Here we go. We get all of our results. Now, see, 4 regions for this person, then the next person, then the next person. So this is all great, but there are some improvements we could do to this. First of all, we probably don't want to start from the first row, because here we probably want to put labels, but that's up to you. And the second one, which is more important, is see these blanks. we probably don't want those blank rows where there is nothing as a value. So to fix that, well, let me delete those results. I'm going to go back, and here, see where we add things to our array, we're going to do an if condition. So I'm going to do an if statement. I'm going to say if, and open that and close it right here. Okay, so here we need to check if this thing is blank, then let's not do anything. And if it's not blank, let's add new rows. Basically, where are we? This last part, that's our number. That's our array when it's just basically shifting through these positions. It's here, 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 here. So that was the last piece. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to say if that is not equal to blank, which is nothing. If it's not equal to nothing, then we want to actually add some values. So that should just first check and make sure there is something in there, and then push things to our array. And then the start row, we're going to start from row 2. And let's try to run this again. Go back, and here we go. Those blanks are gone, and we made our list. So we took this cross tab and we converted it to this.